Great, thanks. One of the things I want to be clear about is that even though I will be presenting what we call flex as an approach, this isn't like a hawking our approach. Rather, what it really is saying what is it you need to do to look at Agile to be effective at Agile at scale. In fact, in some ways, even though it says mid-scale, the approach works for most any size. There are some basic things that need to be attended to, and that's actually what I'll be talking about. In any approach, whatever you do, what we think you have to do is look at, well, what are we trying to accomplish? In fact, this is going to be the agenda for this talk. What are we trying to accomplish? What are our challenges that are typically there? And I use the term challenge intentionally instead of problem, because a challenge implies I'm trying to do something and there's something in my way. And so when you say challenge, it's like, well, what am I trying to do? What's in my way? You know, like, what's the problem? But the problem is always in the context of trying to accomplish something. And when I say what are the rules of the game, what I mean by that is that there are software laws that we have to pay attention to. You know, and then what are the things we have to do, both attending to those and just to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish with the challenges we have. And then what are the options we have? And I'm actually going to mention a little bit about SAFe and less, since SAFe is something our company does, but and it's something we mostly help people with because we don't quite do it out of the box like most companies do. We've always been able to tailor it because we've been doing Lean at scale and Agile at scale for, I don't know, I guess about 13 years now. Although back at scale, back in 2005, was like 25 or 50 people. But again, it's this idea of we wouldn't just ask what cruise should I take. If we were thinking about going on a cruise line, we'd think about what's our attention, where are we going, what, you know, we shouldn't do transformations that way. We don't believe you should just pick up like a framework and say, let's go do that. We have to think more about what it is we're trying to accomplish. So what are we trying to accomplish? And let's get clear about that. So Agile is kind of a loosely bandied term in many ways, and what it actually means is sometimes hard to pin down. It's got a set of values and principles from the Agile Manifesto, and it actually focuses on teams building it iteratively. If you read the manifesto, you'll see how it refers to the team about 15 or 17 times or something, and only about the business and customers when it refers to how they relate to the team. So we have to go beyond this. And this question of what Agile is actually a pretty important thing to attend to. And you know, there's so many different terms for Agile these days that it's actually kind of critical to understand what we mean by it. So we're actually saying we want to go after business agility. And with business agility, we're saying we're going to focus on value realized. In other words, what is business getting? How is it how do we identify, prioritize, and sequence the work to be done and allocate it appropriately to the development teams? That we're not looking at, like, when we talk about scaled Agile, what we mean is across the entire organization, the entire value stream from front to back, from where the idea comes from until it actually gets deployed. And that's what we mean by business agility. And going forward, this is going to be our definition of Agile. We actually want business agility. We want value delivered, realized. And actually, I use that word realized intentionally. And it sounds like it's a small point, but it's not really. Think about this. A lot of companies get to the point where they can get their stuff built, but it doesn't quite get to the customer. You know, it has to go through ops or something, or there might be other things that marketing or whatever doesn't get quite the support it should. And part of that is because we've kind of lost a little bit of what it takes to get it actually realized. And we'll see that part of this is because of some concepts that came out about 20 years ago that are still being used. And I'll talk about that how do we manage the work we're focusing on getting built? That's something that's kind of an important thing. Okay. So what is the goal and benefit of business agility? Okay, again, it's the highest business value. So how do we define what the highest business value is? That's a big question. Because a lot of people go from, like, well, I've got some initiatives or whatever, and then I go to epics, and then right out of there I go to features. But none of those actually represent high business value. They contain high business value inside them, but we have to figure out how to do that. We want it to be a shorter amount of time because we want to deliver quickly. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go fast. So we're going to talk about that. Going faster than you are now may actually cause problems. So it's not about speed, it's about something else. We do want predictability, we want sustainability, and we want high quality. And by working in small delivery increments, we continuously adjust. Now, predictability is kind of sometimes thought of as a bad word in Agile. And I don't mean that predictable like we can at the very beginning figure out exactly what's going to happen and figure out exactly what features are going to look like. In fact, we made a T-shirt years ago. The front said, "I feel so much better since I gave up hope." And a lot of people think that's humorous, and maybe it is because humor exposes truth. And the intention of that was when I was working with, when I used to be a very strong developer. I mean, my history is one of developer, like from 70 to about 96. That's pretty much all I did, and built lots and lots of software. And I shifted into coaching around 96 when I moved down to Seattle. I'm now down in Carlsbad, and I could never get decent requirements. And after a while, I just decided, well, stop hoping you're going to get decent requirements. No, you're not going to get decent requirements. And once you know you're not going to get decent requirements, you start interacting with people in a different way. You start realizing that, oh, I have to do something different. And in fact, that's on the back of the shirt. It says something like that. It says, now that I have no hope, I better take action, embrace change. So predictability isn't predictability of the exact things. It's rather predictability of the flow, the rate of flow you have, or the rate of realization, how much value can I get out. And if you can't do that, there are probably reasons for it. So you should attend to that so it can be an indicator if that's your goal. And we have to recognize that value is defined by the business stakeholders and is unique to the business. This is one of those things, we're always customer-centric and things like that. Yes, you're still customer-centric. Take Apple, they're a great example. Apple is incredibly customer-centric, but it's their business stakeholders, like when Steve Jobs was alive, he would figure out what customers are they going after. They weren't going after Microsoft users. They were going after people who were kind of on, kind of like the artsy feel, kind of like to be a little new agey, going a little bit for the better experience and wouldn't mind paying a little more for that. That was defined by the business, and then once the business defines that, they go after those customers. So this business aspect needs to be in there, steering the way. It does not mean that developers don't make suggestions or things like that. If you've got a product, obviously developers are going to often figure out what's needed. But it's a statement of by the business, and we're going to see how to do that. And this is a very important thing. Also, we're going to deliver incrementally, but this is not like, oh, I have the 6-month project, we're going to give you 2 months of it and then go to something else. That, executives won't like that, obviously, and it's not that. It's like, well, if we have a 6-month project, maybe the first 2 months we can do a partial delivery and get value from after 2 months. And then we can give you the next 2 months, and then give value quicker and sooner and build something where you have it over the 6-month period, but you get some parts of it sooner so you can pivot, you can learn, and you can get value sooner. How do we do that? That's really the essence of business agility. Okay, so what are our challenges? In other words, what's in our way? And this also has to do with the predictability of things. So this is a picture that we use to represent actually our approach, flow for enterprise transformation, but it's basically the general picture we see. So what I want to point out is take a look at this going from left to right. This is generally what happens, just intended to be iconic. You have somewhere you select the value you want. You have some sort of business backlog. You refine that backlog where product managers, that's that first green block, are looking toward the stakeholders, understanding what they need. They work with product owners to convey down what do the teams need to do. A program backlog's built. It's split across the teams. They work together somehow. Then there's integration, and it gets released and hopefully realized. I mean, we have to have done all those pieces. Now, what's interesting is when you look at a lot of companies, and Net Objectives has been in existence since '99, so I've seen a lot of companies, and I go to a lot of conferences, and I talk to a lot of people. And what we've seen is very similar challenges you get. So these are the ones we tend to see, and you can just take kind of a look at those. I'm not going to mention them. I'm just going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to look. And if you don't understand one of those, just put something in the chat box, and I'll answer any questions about what do I mean by that. But I'll give you about 2 minutes to look at each of those. In fact, I'd like you to count how many of these you have, because